Hello everyone, so this is a follow-up video to my previous video, Principles of Trauma 1 and 2. And today I'm going to talk about the following principles. In that video, I mentioned that the first step is to understand that to heal trauma you have to go through it, and going through it means to accept to feel your emotions, including the toughest and darkest ones, so that they can leave your system. It means to be vulnerable with yourself. Step 2 involves being vulnerable with loved ones and trusted chosen figures, like close friends, or anybody that you instinctively feel it's a good starting point to allow them to see your true self, including the bits that until then you had been hiding. And this means to basically, in a nutshell, this is the willingness to face the shadow. And the core idea around here is the vulnerability. Step 3, especially when facing toxic shame, and I believe that for a lot of people, a lot of the toughest bit to heal around trauma are linked to shame. And step 3 for me involves a lot of what Pete Walker talks about in his book, C-PTSD, so complex post-traumatic stress disorder from struggling to thriving, and it's mirroring. Mirroring for me has been a game changer, an absolutely total game changer. And that basically involves finding a figure, and it can be, mostly it's a therapist, but it could be a group. So a lot of stuff, there is another guy, Jack Bradshaw, he talks a lot about toxic shame as well, how to heal it. And for him, what worked were groups, like Adult Children of Alcoholics, like Codependent Anonymous. There are lots of them. In my experience, and I believe also in Pete Walker's experience, a therapist is the key, is the solution. Someone who uses that approach and looks back at you, reflecting back to you who you truly are, outside of the trauma and the false and limiting ideas that you have about yourself. This is the most powerful, by far, dynamic that can take place in a therapeutic setting. We see each other a lot through the eyes of others, and the good thing is that in theory 90% of that happens when we're like babies. We see each other as lovable, reflecting to the eyes of our mother, of our father. They kind of reflect back to us who we are. If that went wrong, you need someone to reflect back to you who you truly are, and that's the mirroring effect. This is an extremely powerful tool and dynamic to heal toxic shame. What you need is to find unconditional love, the unconditional love you didn't get when you were a kid, even if it's just for 2 hours a week or 1 hour a week. Miracles happen during that hour or because of that hour. We call it unconditional love. Better way, or another way of talking about it, is unconditional positive regard. But essentially it is a person who mirrors back to you who you truly are. What you need to do is basically to risk showing your true self to this person. Step 4 is reparenting and inner child work. So this is something that obviously is crucial to the healing process, so it needs to start as soon as it can. These steps are not like you do 1, you're completed, you're done. You could do 2, then you're done, then you're 3. Obviously there is like they recur. It's much more, reality is much more messy. And so reparenting an inner child is also an absolutely crucial component of the healing process, and needs to be at the core of your intention, of your everyday stand and intention. The reason why I put it as step number 4 is because in my experience, if you don't know how to do it, it's extremely hard to even begin with it. Or you risk getting stuck. You can do a little bit of that, taking some care of yourself, having some compassion for yourself, and connecting to your inner child to some extent, and then you stop, you get stuck. And it helps a lot to have a therapist that shows you how to do that, that breaks the toxic, damaging patterns that you have absorbed, that you have internalized. So I don't know how many of you, I assume everybody is familiar with inner child But I may be wrong. Some of the comments and feedback and messages I've received on the back of some of my previous posts seem to imply that not everybody is familiar with this. So there was a guy who kept saying, I think it was his way of coping with enormous trauma, to be honest, but nonetheless he was right. He kept saying we are children disguised as adults, or something around that. So he's absolutely right. The inner child we have with that children that we used to be is still there. He's absolutely there. He's the most vulnerable, beautiful, spontaneous part of us. And when we suffer complex trauma or something went wrong during our upbringing, which is, I mean, something went wrong to some extent for everybody, but I mean, if something seriously went wrong, then it is so important to learn how to reconnect with that inner child and learn how to reparent yourself, to change the narrative, to change the way you treat that little child within you. This is absolutely crucial. And for today, I'll leave it there. I think for a lot, when it comes to therapy, I think these two does things by themselves. They can heal a lot. A lot of people have been healed by simply working with therapists who apply those notions. For me, there is an extra step, and that's the most spiritual part of things, and I already speak about a lot of those stuff in a lot of other videos. So I hope this was helpful, and I will expand on each of these topics with time. Thank you.